Today we're going to talk about Epstein and the financial reality of the art world. And I'm not going to go into the obvious things about Epstein, which is just despicable and disgusting, and where it might lead itself in the long run. You guys all know what I'm talking about. I'm not here to dive down on that. What I really want to talk about is what things we've learned about Epstein and his relationships into the art world, and what we've learned about the art world. And some things might be kind of interesting. Let's get to it. All right, so basically, the Epstein scandal has all opened up kind of a very interesting window to the art world. And believe it or not, I've got to use notes for this because it's a lot of kind of data, and even though I'm kind of going to make it a little more general so everyone can understand it fairly easily, I still need notes. So forgive the glasses and all this, but it's got to go there. The latest tranche of 3,000 or so pages, I think there's like 2,000 more pages, that have evidently all been kind of held back, possibly destroyed, we don't know. These are the papers that came out late January. And what we learned is that Epstein had relationships with really large art collectors, and also opened up windows of how we see how collectors monetize their art collections. That's really what this is about. And it's going to open up some really kind of curious things. Like I say, other people are doing the really hard work about the really disgusting crimes. I think this is kind of interesting, and I think it's good for all of us to know about just a little bit. There's been a number of people who have been kind of outed as collectors and people in power in the art world, but I want to focus in on Leon Black. And Leon Black, I think at one point was a trustee and possibly chairman of the Museum of Modern Art here in New York City. Honestly, my favorite museum, so this doesn't make me happy at all. But it also goes over things that he was able to do with his artwork and with his art collection. And I think it kind of is interesting for all of us to get a handle on this and see what these art collections can actually be. And not only can they be something, they can expand to other things. It's not just about loving art. And even that's a question I want to bring into question a little bit. The first thing I really want to talk about is this kind of Santa Claus-esque thing that people talk about the art world, that people only collect art because they love art. And I think it's time we all realize there's a lot of bullshit in believing that. And I think that if you've been kind of told that and you're led to believe that, parts of that are true, but parts of that are just not true whatsoever. And here's what you have to understand. Anyone who has, let's say, $16 million to be able to spend on a piece of art, well, they've been very fortunate in making that kind of money and hanging on to that money. And no one spends $16 million that has $16 million without going, well, what else can this money do for me? That's the question we're going to start answering in this conversation today. So let's kind of pull that through. $16 million in capital is turned into an asset when you buy the artwork, or stocks or bonds or whatever it is. In this case, it's artwork. But no one kind of gives up that much capital into an asset if that asset just sits there frozen like a rock. So what are the ways that people can make money on this work and make money not losing the work? And one of the most incredible things I've seen, and that I think we all started to become very more well aware of, is almost all of these art collections are held in LLCs. It's a limited liability company. Basically, it's a legal shell. We've seen celebrities who now buy their apartments via apartments here in New York City, or houses, whatever, via LLCs. It means they can kind of hold things with a little bit of privacy. LLCs used to be completely private. These days, the laws have changed where they kind of have to tell who's in them and what's in them. But that you have to actually know what the LLC is first before you can start tracking that information down. It gives you a bit of privacy. And if you don't understand what the word privacy really means, what it means is they don't want to tell you, and they're going to make it really hard for you to find out. That's basically what privacy is about when it comes to business. Congratulations, you know what privacy is. When people start talking about, oh, they want transparency through everything, that usually means they want transparency on everything everybody else wants, except for them. Just understand that no one likes their dirty laundry put in public. No one likes being told by the world that this is everything that I own. Come take a look at it. No one wants that. And that's why we have privacy. And that's why I've always been a big believer of, if that's what you think privacy is kind of this thing where transparency will help you, transparency is the anti-privacy. Just understand that. Something that we found in the Epstein files is that people were able to take loans against their art, up to 50%. And crazy enough, at one point in the files, Bank of America was giving a 1% interest on that loan. So let's say you had a tranche of, let's say $250 million worth of art that's been appraised and whatnot. That means you can borrow $125 million with 1% that you have to pay back. That is effectively free money. You could then take that 125, you could start new businesses, you could invest in the market, you could buy other artworks, whatever. You could start making that money work for you. And here's the kicker, the artwork that you have holding that loan, you got to keep. So you still had the artwork. It might have had some financial ties to it, but you had the artwork, you could look at it, you could show it to people. Hell, you could even sell it and then sell it to pay off your loan. So that's an amazing thing, 1%. 1%. Most of my listeners, I'm going to assume, are people in their 20s to 40s. Most credit cards come at least 10%, if not 24%. So understand just how big a deal that is. 1%. That's phenomenal. The other thing we have is this. If you buy an artwork, let's say in the 90s, and you bought it for $2 million, and then in today's dollars, it's increased to, let's say, $30 million. You've never paid taxes on that artwork since the day you first bought it. It basically sits someplace kind of inert. Versus like your home or real estate property, real estate, you have yearly taxes you pay on that. So every year you're paying more taxes on your real estate. Doesn't happen that way with art. And that's a great place to put money. And I know someone's going to come up here and say, oh, well, you've got Bitcoin for that. No, you don't, because Bitcoin is completely volatile and everyone knows it. And no one in their right mind is putting $15 million into Bitcoin and being comfortable about it. But here's the amazing thing. You've got a $2 million investment from the 90s that you've paid all your taxes on, and then your asset has just sat there quietly. Let's say you haven't done anything against it. Now it's worth $30 million. You know what you can do? You can trade it and then get things back in return and still never pay taxes on it. So you could take that $30 million piece of artwork, trade it for, let's say, $5 million artworks. You would have sales taxes you'd be responsible for, but not that bad. Now you've got 5 or 6 assets worth $5 million that over the next 10 years can accumulate value, and you're even further ahead of the game. The way that high-end collectors can monetize their art collections far exceeds what any of us really imagined. Remember how I said earlier, oh, you only buy these things because you love them? Really look at that with a side eye, because that's really not true. Now, where that might be true is if you're someone who's making less than $1 million a year and you want decorations for your home or what have you, yeah, you're going to have to love that because you're going to live with it. But when you have a net worth of, let's say, $4 to $6 billion, these are now assets that come into play and they're making money on them. And it's a really interesting game they play with it. The other thing you can do with artwork that you buy, and we're seeing this now filter down, but you can form an LLC that has multiple owners, and that LLC is really based off of one artwork. That one artwork now has multiple owners. So you can kind of figure out ways of how all of you can make money off that one artwork, or just hold it till you sell it, and it's fractional ownership. And fractional ownership is a very real thing. There's some kind of .com company that does that now. I get ads for it every once in a while. It looks like it's total bullshit to me, but if you've got people who really understand it and you're really buying truly high-end works, truly blue-chip works, you can make a piece of fractional ownership work really well. You're seeing it with private jets. So it's not something that is completely uncommon. Look, this is just a quick hit. I wanted to get this in and out because I think Epstein's kind of topical right now. But I would be remiss to say if a lot of this didn't come from the Art Angle podcast that I recently listened to and certain articles in ArtNews. Go take a look and do some research for yourself on this one if you're interested. And I hope you are interested. I think it's really a fascinating way to look at the deeper, kind of darker corners of the art world. Anyhow, that's it for me. Like and subscribe if you can, and I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.